there's a life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that one could have carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, would have kept me from what I had today. Everywhere I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I won't forget the lessons that I don't deserve.
Good morning, Robertson County, and points beyond, as we like to say, because this is 1100 WSGI, and while you can hear us terrestrially here in Robertson County and in the neighboring counties, well, you can hear us worldwide via the web, the interwebs, and you can get online and follow WSGI on YouTube and Facebook, and you can follow me on Laverne, You Turn Laverne Video, and you can hear the show, and again, you can get it the old-fashioned way on your radio. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us for One Street Over, a chance to see what's going on one street over from where you live in. Aaron Slate will be in here. It's his slot at 7:30. He comes in to just talk about finances, something we all need to learn more about. And so we appreciate him taking a time once a month to drop in. But this morning, I'm very excited about our guest. I have Lee Marie to thank for my guest. Gina Webb is in the house. And she is from, tell me if I'm saying it wrong, Moringa Tree?
Yep.
Did I say it correctly?
Right,
okay.
The Moringa Tree.
Moringa Tree in White House. And I know a little bit about Moringa because we have this wonderful youth minister named Nate Hale. And he grows Moringa. Wow. And so we have a community garden at our church, and he is just into all this stuff, right? He would love Doc Brown. I know you know Doc Brown too, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Wild Doc.
Right.
So he would love all of this stuff. And so he has done the powdered moringa and stuff at church. I don't really know anything about it. Anything that's a super healthy condensed thing I can do because I eat terribly. I don't take super good care of myself, so I take vitamins and I eat an avocado every day. I just try to do a few things that I know are good for me. And I hear moringa is really, really good. And since you named your business that, I'm thinking you might know a lot about it. Would I be correct?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So talk to me. What is it you do? Okay, so tell me who you are. You're Gina Webb. You're in White House. Are you a local?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm from Michigan originally, but we've been here for like 14 years.
Okay.
So.
What part of Michigan?
I'm from Jackson. I'll show you on my hand, but that's, cliche.
Well, no, here's my husband's a Youper. So I started to ask you if you were a Youper or a troll. And you know what that means, right?
I'm in the lower.
Yeah. So when you hear from somebody from Michigan, because my husband is a Youper, y'all say y'all to the UP, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And if you don't understand, you just look up Youper and you'll get it. So he's just south of Lake or Superior, right? So he's like up above Wisconsin. So when you say my husband's from Michigan, people go, it's kind of a world in and of itself.
It really is.
And the big joke, if you're from Michigan, are you a Youper? If you're a Youper, it's like, well, are you a Youper or are you a troll? Because you live below the Saginaw Bridge, or you live below the Mackinac Bridge. Right? So anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Right. But so you're from Jackson, Michigan, and you've been here 14 years. Right. So did you bring this love of natural remedies with you?
So not originally. I mean, I got into it after my mom was starting to get into it because my brother got really sick. And then after having a couple of kids and like really being angry at the medical system and how several of my kids were treated and harmed. And so I decided I needed to find alternate solutions for their health. And so that's when I kind of really got into it for myself.
Okay, very good. I had a dear friend of mine, Kathy Harden, that she's passed. She had cancer. She died several years ago, but she was my go-to about these kind of questions. I could call her and she could answer. I mean, she just was very much into natural remedies and things like that, and just a fascinating knowledge that she had. And I just such a loss to my fellowship of friends was Kathy because she was our go-to,
right?
And she knew it all.
Yeah, she's great.
And it was. Did you know Kathy?
Oh yeah, very well. Yeah. I mean, she's a homeschooling mom with lots of kids, so it was very hard to find another mom that had a lot of kids and homeschooled.
I didn't know you knew Kathy.
Oh, yeah. We were really good friends. I really helped her with a lot of the herbs and stuff when she decided to go naturally.
With cancer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. I did not know that y'all
I actually drive her van. Like when they didn't need it anymore, they asked if we needed because a lot of their kids had already graduated and moved on. So I still drive her van. So thank you, Kathy.
Gosh. Yes, I love Kathy. She's so special to me.
Yeah.
I was praying over her kids and family. That's one of those things, whenever she died, I was just like, what can I do, David? And I miss them because they've moved to the Gallatin area up in there.
I think it's so far away.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm over there. I just don't, I talk to David from time to time just to kind of catch up on what's going on. But the kids, oh my gosh, they're all big. Even Kyle Renee's driving.
It's so weird.
I know. It is like Kyle is our little. She's our little Armenian princess that they rescued. Just literally rescued this child. I'll never forget. I mean, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole talking about Kathy, but I wrote a blog about saving Kyle because when Kathy wanted to adopt a child from another country, she goes, I wanted to adopt a child nobody else would, and because Kyle had special needs. That's why they went after. I'll never forget it. It was just the most breathtaking journey. I was there for all of it, and it was just the most amazing story. And I miss seeing them, miss Kathy dearly. But as soon as I started hearing about you, I'm like, oh, she just sounds like Kathy. Did not know y'all were friends. That's wild.
She's sweet.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now, all right. Any of my Madison peeps, are you paying attention? Because everybody loves Kathy, and so this is a good backstory. So okay, so you've got Moringa Tree. Mm-hmm. You've named your company for this thing, Moringa. What is Moringa?
So Moringa is a tree that grows in warm regions like India and Africa. It's just like a superfood. It's like God puts a superfood in every area. So although we can ship things and grow things in different conditions, I think He put it, different things in locations for those people. But a lot of the the natives in the area call the tree of life, because it has so many nutrients. They call it mother's best friend because it just builds you up because of like the nutrient profile looks like a multivitamin. So and it's assimilable because it's just one plant instead of getting a synthetic vitamin or things that have been pulled out and put together, or even a bunch of different things. If it's overwhelming, like you can do one plant or one tree and you can use almost the entire thing. We don't use the roots or the bark because they have different medicinal properties that you don't need for like everyday nutrition, but every other part of the tree you use. So we source ours from a farmer in India, and we get we get the pods, stems, seeds, and the leaves. Then we mix it up in a combination and sell it. We also put it in our food. So we put it in our pesto and all of our smoothies, our smoothie bowls. So we're just trying to do a little sprinkle of health on everything, Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, see, no, then I thought, okay, I thought that our youth minister, he doesn't grow this in the garden then. So
you'd have to bring it in every year. Like you can grow it in Florida. But if you grow it here in Tennessee, you have to do it in a greenhouse or bring it in during the winter.
Maybe that's what he's doing then, because I know he has it, and I assumed it was something I just haven't talked to him about it.
It's like a lemon tree or something. You can't just leave it out. Even our fig trees, we have to like either bury them or cover them or.
Okay.
So, but this one is not winter hardy, so you definitely have to like baby it.
So it's like almost like a citrus, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting, because I know that he's got I think he's grown it to some degree, but he sells it in little packs, powder packs.
Yeah,
right. Because we have like this little coffee shop in our church that we raise money for missions with, and it's called Roots Cafe. And so they will have a little vegetable stand out there during garden season, just to and you if you need it, you take it. If you can contribute. If you know somebody that needs it, takes it. It's just a sharing garden.
Yeah.
And so they'll have them, and I've seen the moringa out there, and so I just assumed they were growing it. So I need to talk to Nate about it exactly. Well, he's got. If you go in his office, it's like the tropics because he's got like the hydroponics stuff going, and he's really into all that.
Yeah,
You probably have a hydroponics. Do you have?
I don't like hydroponics. I really believe in using the soil.
Okay, well, very cool.
So, but I mean, it's neat, and I think it's really cool. I'm like, you're missing something.
Okay, I get that.
It's all right. Teach their own. I definitely do love dirt.
Well, I think he loves the lettuces and things like that. He can do hydroponics.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of a year-round thing for him.
Yeah.
It's more. I think it's more his sustainable, fresh produce through the winter than it is because
Definitely.
he's working the garden and all that.
It's a space saver.
So,
it's great.
Okay, so what all did you bring here? You've got.
I just brought some fun things because she
Okay.
said, "Well, talk about your herbalist class." So I thought, okay. So I just grabbed a few things that.
So you have an herbalist class. When does that meet?
So that's tomorrow. We do classes once a month at the cafe to educate everybody about nutrition and like natural healing and just anything that pertains to like living and thriving naturally. And so our next class tomorrow is at 6:30 p.m. at the cafe.
Okay.
And we're going to go over we usually go over medicinal herbs. I'll just pick 10 random herbs that we'll go through and we'll kind of go in depth about them. And then I'll show them hands-on demonstrations like poultices and infusions and decoctions. And we'll probably do some like oil infusions too to make like salves. And so, yeah, just fun stuff.
Fun stuff. I love it. This is fascinating to me. And it's one of those things I don't know if you ever watched Beverly Hillbillies. Old Granny Clampett, she knew how to do anything with a poultice or something. She'd make something, right? I just it was so funny. I would hear her say some of the things they would say on there were actually accurate. That I was like, I know what that herb is, and that's a real thing, and that does what she says it'll do.
Right.
So they did a little research for that show. It wasn't completely nonsensical. Pretty close, but not completely. Every now and then there was a little treasure from Granny, and it was an herb she'd mentioned, and you're like, okay, that's real. That's real. And so I think what I heard her, she was talking about making senna tea. Somebody had a stomach issue, right? And so senna tea. And I was like, I know that works. I've heard that my whole life. But so will you say every area has a superfood? What would be ours in Middle Tennessee? What? So if God gave us a superfood
Sure.
here, like he gave the moringa tree over. Did you say India?
Yeah, India or Africa,
Okay.
usually where it's prolific.
What would you say would be ours?
I mean, we have pawpaws, and pawpaws are supposed to be anti-cancer and like all kinds of nutrients in them. I mean, pawpaws are pretty cool, and so is the poplar. Like the poplar is hugely medicinal.
The poplar tree? Mm-hmm. Really?
So that one's hugely medicinal. And I'm still kind of just getting into this area of like, because I just got into foraging not that long ago, and so I'm still researching like what's growing near me, what can I get for medicine right now, if everything shuts down tomorrow, how can I source my own herbs? And so we've been growing, like starting a medicinal garden at the cafe, and then also at my house on our farm, and then. So I'm still kind of getting through it, and every time, there's so much to learn.
Do you know where I can get a pawpaw tree?
I don't know.
Because see, I had one. Okay, 'cause this is a long thing for me because the pawpaws I've known about them my whole life. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket. Way down yonder in the pawpaw patch. I was trying to get the lesson because my grandfather, we called him Pawpaw, and so we would always sing that little ditty. When we were talking around pawpaw, and I hadn't done that in a while. But anyway, so so I've always known about pawpaws, never really been around them that much because while we sang that little song to my pawpaw, I was never around them. When we moved out here, my father found a pawpaw tree on the other side of the creek. Well, in the soil erosion, it got washed away. And so we lost it. So I have scoured my woods, not lately, to try to find another pawpaw tree because I figure where there's one, maybe there's others. So far, I haven't found one because I think they're fascinating.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I don't even know what they are. Yeah. So I have, buckeyes were another thing that we had just all over the place where I grew up. And so I was able to transplant a couple of buckeye trees. So I've got buckeyes now, just because I think they're, I don't know, do they have any medicinal properties?
I'm sure they do. I don't know. I'd have to look them up.
They're poisonous. I know that.
Well, certain parts you have to be very careful.
Yeah, but I would be curious about buckeyes because I've got a lot of buckeyes now because I was able to get those, and it's just a memory from my childhood. Just like I have mimosa trees because that's a childhood memory.
Yeah, those are amazing.
I've got mimosa trees everywhere.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love them. So I've got mimosa trees and I've got buckeye trees, but I want a pawpaw tree.
Yeah.
And I want to plant several because we've let part of our land reforest, and it's fascinating just what's coming up.
Right.
And so we've got the little forest right to the left of our house is natural forestation. There's a few trees out there I planted before we let it reforest. So, but otherwise it's just purely God's reforesting. And so it's been fascinating to watch. And then across the creek from us is the same thing. And I would love, if you ever want to come forage, man, come and let's go walk and you can kind of tell me what we've got and you can gather. And because I don't even know what's there, and I'm just curious about all this kind of stuff. Because like you said, if everything falls apart, we're going to all want to know this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, now's the time to get studying before it's like an emergency.
For sure. Gina Webb's with me. She's from Moringa Tree. Now, it's a business, so I want you to kind of unpack, other than the class, do you have products that you sell, things like that? Okay, well, let me do a break real quick.
Yep.
And then we'll come back and we'll continue our conversation with Gina Webb from Moringa Tree up in White House. Had no idea that we've got a sister friend who's watching over us. But anyway, I want to pause for a second and talk to you about my friends over at Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. I got to tell you, I was over there yesterday. She had just walked up from the garden. So I didn't look around too much, but I did look around enough just to see, so many beautiful things. And on the post today, this morning, they've got the hydrangeas. I think I'm going to have to go by there and get some hydrangeas. I've not done well with mine. I think I'm putting them in the wrong place. So I really need to talk to her about my placing of them because I really want a hydrangea bed. I want to have several plants. So I think I'm going to go and talk to her about that. Also went by and got some of that yellow-green squash. I tell you, the variety I think is called Zephyr, but I had grown it in the past. It is really one of the best squashes ever. They didn't get any green beans yesterday. It was just too muddy. So she says she'll have those later in the week. And I did talk to her about the mums. Last year, they didn't have mums because Miss Jane was sick when you were supposed to be starting those, but they've got them going this year. And she says probably mid-September is when she's looking at her mums starting up. So that's what's going on at Corbin Creek. Follow them on social media, and that's a good way to stay up to date on everything happening over at the greenhouse. And while you're there, go into the garden store. Make sure that you check out all the handmade items from Miss Jane. I just don't want any potholders other than the ones Miss Jane made because they're just so much better. Just absolutely so much better than anything else out there. So go and get those. If you need a gift item, they've got all kinds of gift ideas in the store. And of course, a beautiful plant, a beautiful hydrangea would be a great gift for somebody. Picked up some more CBD oil yesterday. Cannot say enough about how that helps me with my arthritis. And if you want to know more about the science behind that, that is Robertson County CBD, produced from plants that her brother Bill grows. She's a fascinating person to talk to. Love my friend Amy Corbin. She's at 4920 Highway 161, 4920 Highway 161. She'll be at the farmer's market, of course. Miss Jane 1 will be this Saturday out at the fairgrounds. And there's a lot of stuff going on at the fairgrounds, too. And we'll be talking about that soon with Trent Cobb. But when you see Miss Amy, tell her you turned said hey, and thank her for sponsoring One Street Over. All right, talking with Gina Webb. Oh, my goodness. I know I could probably talk to you for an hour. This is fascinating stuff to me. I want to learn this. So what products do you have, and what do you share with the public then through Moringa Tree?
Sure. So we do a wellness studio, and so in our studio, I do health consulting with people, and so I usually have to recommend herbs or herbal combinations or teas and stuff for them to help them get better through their condition. And so we do medicinal teas. We have superfood blends. We have herbal extracts that are combinations that are put together for support for specific body systems or specific issues like a bacterial detox or viral detox or things like that. So it's a complete, we have everything that you would need to get started on like a healing protocol. And then we just started our own supplement line. So we have like vitamin C and charcoal and things like that in capsule now, and probiotics that are our line. So that's great. And then of course it's a full service restaurant. We do catering, and we're doing a catering this Friday actually for somebody's dad's 80th birthday party. So that'll be fun.
That's fun. And so you cater, but it's good catering.
Exactly. It's all not organic and clean. And yeah, I mean, it's the best food ever.
That is good. Well, what kind of a menu do you serve? I mean, so what are you serving this Friday?
Sure. So this Friday, they wanted a nacho bar. And so we're doing a nacho bar with chicken and beef and bean dip. We're also doing a charcuterie board with local smoked meats. And then and local cheeses. And then we have like a veggie tray with like a ranch dip that we make that's actually probiotic because I make it with kefir. And then we have a fruit tray, and we're making them huge chocolate cakes. But the chocolate cakes are sweetened with good sugars instead of just like junky white sugar, and they're gluten-free. And so, everything we do, we try to use unrefined, the best of the best, and as much locally sourced as possible.
That's so cool. I love it. How long have you been doing the catering?
Well, since we opened, so
how long has the restaurant been in there?
A year.
Okay.
Yeah, my sister owns the original. She's been in business for 10 years. So yeah.
How fun.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Oh, you're so wonderful. This is so fun. And Lee Marie says, and she knows because Doc Brown's my chiropractor. Mm-hmm. Love that guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Him. He's just awesome. And it was so funny. I was in there. I was with him the other day, and something was said about the beef liver capsules.
Sure.
My hairdresser got me on those.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see he had them too. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
He's got his stamp of approval. I didn't really talk to him about it, but because I was like, oh, so you have the beef liver? And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh.
Right.
My hairdresser, Penny Callis, got me on those.
Nice.
And I love them.
Yeah.
I think it's, and really it was to help my hair grow, but it seems to be helping.
Helps.
It does seem to be helping.
We have some from a farmer in Kentucky that we source.
Okay. Well, that's very cool. And, but I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff like that.
Right.
So if you want to know about these natural vitamins and the beef liver, they say it's a natural multivitamin, really. Yeah. And that just blew my mind. I'm like, really? Okay. That's bizarre. But so tell me about the stuff you have here. What is this right here?
Sure. That's yarrow. So that's from my garden. So I just grabbed the most random things. What do you do with that? So yarrow is really good for babies and for pregnant women. It's something that's safe for everybody. So you can make a tea out of it or an extract or usually teas are the easiest way and the fastest way to get herbs in if you're sick. And so that one's a good like cold care, not feeling well. It's really good for respiratory and so it's just one of my favorites to have like on hand for children. So, and I just had it hanging by the door. So I was like, I'll just grab this on the way out.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was going to just demonstrate like how easy it is to grab herbs and then hang them to dry for a little bit. And then you can store them. So that way you have them in the winter when you might get sick.
I love it. I love it. I would love to see your space. So you have like an herb room with just stuff
So,
everywhere?
in my cafe, I have like a storage area where I keep all of my stuff. But then I have like at my house, we have hanging racks where we just put the herbs in each shelf.
Yeah.
To dry, and then at the cafe, we'll just grab the herbs and hang them wherever we find like a little hook or just like at the edge of a shelf or anywhere. And the easiest way to do is just we get a rubber band at the end, and then you can hook that rubber band onto anything. And so that way I can grab like it's great for like when I'm drying thyme because that's like so nice to just grab and like
I know
put it in your soup or whatever. So we have a lot of random herbs just hanging on the shelves at the cafe.
I think that's fun though.
So yeah. I think it would be nice to like have an area where I just kind of like hang them from one of the rooms and they're just hanging in there drying, but I haven't quite done that yet. So, but yeah, at my house, that's what they're doing. They're all over the place. But,
I bet. Yeah. I bet it's fun. I bet it smells wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, I bet it's an amazing smell. You just walk in, you're like, what is this?
Right.
It's God.
Yeah.
it's what he gave us.
What he gave us. Yeah.
I know. That's so cool. So what else have you got in your
this is my decoction of my tea that I've been doing for myself. So I was like, a lot of times when you make a tea that has roots and bark in it, you can steep it for several brews. And so this one I did a second time so I could get all of the medicinal properties out of it. And that one I just put hot water in and then I just left it overnight to keep steeping. So that one's just a blood cleansing formula.
So how much of that do you use and how often do you use it?
Sure. For me, for the blood cleansing formula, I'm doing it for a specific purpose. And so I'm going to try doing like 1 to 2 cups every day and probably just run it for a couple weeks and see how it does. So I do myself as my own guinea pig. I always love trying something and just see how it does on my body. And that way I have personal experience with it before I'm like, oh yeah, try this out. So, and we have all our kids. So whenever they have a problem and I try something, I'm like, wow, that worked. That's great. And it's also a great testimonial to share with somebody. And then I can tell them the step-by-step directions on how to do something. So
absolutely. Okay. So what else you got?
So this is my, these are just an example of like our extracts. So this is our All Solid Detox. It's just a formula of different herbs that help to cleanse the body.
Okay.
So, and then this one's an infusion. So there's different oils in it and you can infuse the herbs into it. But this is a blood cleansing or a cleansing balm that you can put on your skin and just use it as like a face wash or you can add salt to it and make it like a scrub.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Fun.
I love it. Now, what have you got with your books here? You've got some textbooks here. Let's go.
So these are the books, some of the books that I love for herbalism. So this one's Dr. Christopher's, his reference guide. This was put together through his like 25 lectures that he did. He is one of the main herbalists that brought like herbalism back to the forefront in America. Okay. When people were just being jailed all over the place for practicing quote unquote herbs. And so it was a major crime before he started bringing it back and the industry did not want competition. So anytime anybody was caught using herbs to help somebody, they could be jailed.
That's crazy.
It was nuts.
I mean, that's nuts.
It was like, when homeschooling was illegal, you'd have to keep your kids inside during hours because you didn't want anybody like calling truancy on you, So it's just crazy. I mean, we've come a long way, but we also there's still so much going on that people aren't aware of,
So tell me his name again. What is the title of that book we all
Dr. John Christopher, and it's the School of Natural Healing, and it's the Herbal Reference Guide. And it's like, I just love it because it's kind of like his story, and it reads like a novel almost,
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has lots of like testimonials of like, this kid came and he had burned his hands and what did I do? And so it's really, I love it because of the stories. And so that I feel like that's how I learn better is just through listening to that. And then the last few books are just kind of like practical herbalism, just how to do it, what it looks like, what is a poultice, how do you do that?
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, so I love aloe vera, and I have been gifted with a bunch of aloe vera. What can I do with aloe vera?
nice. So aloe vera is good for burns. So I like
Right.
to keep that one on hand.
As soon as you mentioned burns, that's why we made me think
Yep.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also good for your digestive tract. So if
really?
if you cut open the inner fillet and you just like scoop out the juice, and then you can just eat it, or you can put it in your juice or something. But it's really soothing for your mucogen,
Okay, really? Okay.
membranes, and so it's calming. And so if you had like acid reflux or had diarrhea one day and your digestive is still kind of like really off, you can take that and it helps to just calm things down. It's a soother.
Okay. How is it for your skin? Using it straight on your skin, is it just for burns or
Not
is it?
necessarily. It's very cooling. So if you have any kind of inflammatory like psoriasis or other types of like skin like irritations, you can just kind of rub it on fresh. Like if you have a plant, it's great because you have all the
I
live
always
enzymes.
keep it.
Yeah.
I keep it. Yeah.
So you can just open it right up and just kind of rub it on those areas. But I do like to freeze the gel into little packs, or you can use ice cube trays. And then if you have a lot of it,
I do.
You could scoop it out and put it in ice cube trays, like really small ones. And then when someone's burned, you want something cold. So putting
perfect.
those and then rubbing them on. Or I've had kids who like burn their hand, and so we'll just put them in a bowl and they'll just leave their hand in the bowl until it calms down.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Because I was trying to, because my mother had this massive aloe vera and and it just needed to be trimmed back. And so I had all this aloe vera and I'm like, how can I preserve it? And then we're out of time. I saw Erin walk in. We're talking with Gina Webb, and she is with Moringa Tree Cafe. It's cafe, right? Or
a restaurant in
restaurant
White
up in
House.
White House. They've been open for a year. It's all organic, all as much local source. They got catering. She's got these herbal classes tomorrow. How can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with all of this?
Yeah, you can call the cafe, or we're on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow us on social media.
Moringa Tree.
Moringa Tree TN.
Moringa Tree TN. That's what you need to look up, and you need to go talk to this lovely lady. And just so tickled to know that we have a mutual friend in Kathy.
Right.
Hi, Kathy. She's just going, yeah.
Go team.
Cloud of witnesses.
Right.
Cloud of witnesses. Nice to meet you.
It was really nice to
We
meet
got to
you.
move on. I know Aaron's in here, and he always needs more time than I can give him too. God bless you. Thank you so much, Gina. That was fascinating. And as we make the switch, let's talk about one of our sponsors. Let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. I had to call Barry just a couple of days ago, and it wasn't about real estate. It was about something to do with my audio video class, because he is just such a doll. He has helped me so much with the work that I'm doing over at Greenbrier High School, and I love you, Barry. And I always like to say that because that's the kind of people that he and Rebecca are. They are the kind of people that just want to do for the community, and just anything you ask. It seems like they're ready to go. They were one of the sponsors of the Haiti walk run that they had last weekend. So you'll see them all over town sponsoring events. And if you have any questions at all about the real estate table, if you're going to be buying or selling, whatever it is, they're experts at it. They've been at it a long time. Rebecca's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. Barry brings the marketing experience to the table as a former vice president of a media marketing company up in Nashville for 17 years. They're in Cross Plains. They're one of us. They're Robertson County, and so they specialize in Robertson County properties, but also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky, y'all. Good friends, great partners of this program. So if you want to connect with them, go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Best way to get them, though, just give Rebecca a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, and let them know that you turned sent you. Hello, Aaron Slate. What are you doing?
Morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Dog days of summer, man.
I know. I feel like it's been so long since I've been here.
Oh, I know. It has been. I mean, because I was gone to Mexico when you could, I don't know. There's been all kinds of stuff going on.
I don't know what it's been about this summer, but for us, it seems like this summer has just been a little bit busier than usual.
Oh, ours definitely has, because I'm a teacher and I'm learning. I had to spend 6 days in Murfreesboro.
Oh yeah,
getting some schooling myself, and I just can't say enough about that part. There's a lot going on, and I don't know if your ears were burning the other day. We were talking about you and how we keep saying we need to come and meet with you. We really do.
Come on.
I know, and I'm hoping someday soon I'm going to be calling you and setting up an appointment. Are you back in the office?
We're finally back in the office.
Okay.
So I was trying to think. I guess it was toward the end of June.
Okay.
When we were able to get back open. We had a pop in with the Robertson County Chamber of Commerce. That was great.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's I think it's a lot nicer than it was before. We just, it was unfortunate that the flooding and all that happened.
Yeah.
But since our build out was done, almost 5 years ago, Edward Jones has changed, some of the color palettes and just some of the branding. So we took that as an opportunity to update and make some changes. And I think we got a pretty nice finished product.
Very definitely. Well, and we're talking Edward Jones up in Greenbrier. I think this is the first time I've ever seen you without a suit.
Yeah.
I'm not used to seeing you in the polo there, bud.
Sometimes during the summer,
I don't blame you.
If I don't want to say my day's slower because it's not, but I only have one in-office appointment today, and sometimes during the summer, it's just nice to work.
I'm just teasing you though, because you're always just I mean, and it looks very nice. I'm just giving you a hard time, but I was just I'm just not used to seeing you. Now I've seen you at events and things to where you don't have the suit on. Right. But how's the family?
We're good.
Good.
We're about to be baseball parents. Walker just turned 4, and so we signed him up for fall ball yesterday on Greenbrier City Hall, and got him signed up, got him on a team. I've been having to do a little. So one of the coaches from the 6U World Series team, I went to high school with him, and he said try to get him on a team. That way, he said a lot of times, like because you can sign up as a team or as an individual. He said, and so like all those individual kids, he said that a lot of times they kind of just get thrown together.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those are kids who have never played before. So I wanted him to have a really good experience his first year. That way he can learn and develop. And if he likes it, then he can stick with it. So I had to do a little bit of networking to get him on a team.
Who you know?
Yeah.
Who you know?
I guess a little politicking is what.
No. That's funny.
I just talked to the city, and of course, Rory Osborne over the Parks and Recs program. He's really great, and he just recommended a guy who was coming back and had a few spots to fill on his team.
Very good.
We're about to be ball field parents. So.
Oh boy, I tell you, I've been doing ball field with my grandson, and it's a lot of fun. I don't know anything about baseball, but he has a big time, so I love it. So it's a good time. But we got to get right to it now. So talking about all the financial things going on, Aaron comes in and gives us an update from the Edward Jones perspective, and it's always insightful, and have a lot of people say they look forward to it because it's their plug-in. What's the mood?
Well, good.
Yeah.
That makes me happy to hear. So since it's been a while since I've been here and a lot has changed, I pulled a report. It's actually from the end of June, but it's titled 3 Themes for the Second Half of 2023.
Okay.
So it does kind of hit on some things that we've seen in the first half of the year, but really it's more or less our outlook. Just three bullet points for some things that we can expect for the second half of this year, and some of the things that we're already seeing. Mm-hmm. So before we get into those, to each point, some key takeaways are: as investors approach the mid-year point for 2023, there are a few notable trends to highlight. First, the markets overall continue to be remarkably resilient. And so one thing, that we've talked about with our clients, obviously if you have any kind of investments or you follow the markets, have been trending upward for this year. Haven't fully recovered from where we were about a year and a half ago, but things are trending upward. Second, the Federal Reserve and central banks across the world do not yet seem done with their rate hiking cycles. Keep in mind this come out at the end of June, so that might have changed slightly. The Fed has indicated up to 2 more rate hikes are likely, although it may be headed towards a pause in the back half of the year. And third, the U.S. economy continues to defy calls for a recession, with the Fed's own GDP Now tracker calling for about a 2% growth rate in the second quarter. So just three simple takeaways. So the first theme that we're going to talk about for the second half of 2023 is the economy and inflation are likely to cool. So the U.S. economy may be heading towards below trend growth. The U.S. economy has defied expectations and ongoing calls for a recession, even as the Fed has raised rates aggressively over the past 16 months and as the yield curve has been inverted. So anytime the yield curve is inverted, that just means that short-term interest rates are higher than long-term rates. And historically, most of the time when the yield curve becomes inverted, a recession will follow at some point. So when you hear inverted yield curve, a lot of people just associate that with an indicator of recession. So this in large part is in large part due to the resilience of the labor market, which still boasts an unemployment rate of 3.7, which is near multi-decade lows, and healthy wage growth of 4.3%. As we know, consumers are generally more comfortable spending when they're fully employed and feel secure in their jobs. And that's something that we've really seen. This report doesn't talk about it, but the American consumer, throughout this down market has proven to be very strong. And I think a lot of that is just pent up from the COVID era. And a lot of people just have money in their pockets, and things really from an American consumer standpoint, I don't think things have really started to get tight in our wallets yet. However, we are starting to see some early signs that the labor market and the economy may be cooling. Some leading indicators of the labor market point to a pending softness, including rising jobless claims, lower quit rates, and falling job openings. So that's one thing. I think we've talked about it just about every time that we've been in here. One indicator that everybody really looks at when it comes to recessions is unemployment, because historically, when you're in a recession, unemployment does rise. But I've always thought, because even though we feel like a recession is likely at some point, we expect it to be mild and shallow. And so when we think about how many jobs were lost, whether that be because pre-retirees went ahead and retired, or if it's because of, it sounds morbid, but the spike in deaths that occurred because of COVID, when we think about, all those events and the void that created in the labor force, I don't think unemployment is going to be like it has been, and from a historical standpoint, when this recession does hit. So ultimately, we may see more of a rolling recession, implying that some sectors may be heading into a downturn while others are stabilizing and rebounding. Housing, for example, seemed to have troughed, so it hit its bottom earlier this year, and now perhaps is stabilizing. Overall, this may lead to economic growth in the U.S. that falls below trend, perhaps less than 1%, but we may not see the traditional 2 or more quarters of negative GDP. So you've probably heard over the last year, recession is defined by 2 negative quarters of GDP,
right?
And that is one metric that helps define a recession, but it's not the end all. And importantly, we still do not see the scope for a deep or prolonged economic downturn as we head to the back half of 2023. So, like I say, yes, we do feel like a recession is going to happen at some time. They're just part of the business and economic cycle. But like I said, we don't expect it to be deep or prolonged. And the words that I've been reading and hearing used to describe this looming recession is mild and shallow.
Okay.
So we don't think it's going to, I think I have to remind people, because the most recent recession, I mean, yes, you could call 2020 a recession, but that was really more of a shutdown. So taking that out of the picture, the most recent recession that the U.S. has gone through is 2008. And I have to remind people, that was a crisis.
Yes, it was.
It was a recession, but it was a crisis. And so, financial crises like that, they don't come around very often. So don't confuse a recession, with the crisis. Okay, so inflation will also likely continue to trend lower. So what we saw was it 2 weeks ago, I think, when the consumer price index come out, was that the CPI was hanging out around 3%, which is significant progress. So really, since I guess last October, inflation has consistently improved. So inflation is getting better. So meanwhile, as economic growth cools, we also see the path for inflation to continue to move lower in the months ahead. The forward-looking indicators on inflation continue to trend lower, and don't necessarily worry about what these metrics stand for. But as measures like the ISM prices, paid indexes, supply chain pressure metrics, and used car prices are all lower. So just some metrics that are used to gauge inflation, they are trending lower. The Federal Reserve would also like to see wage growth cool and services prices ease, which could give some relief to core inflation. And core inflation, I think, is what really everyone is concerned about right now, because it has been just a little bit higher than the consumer price index. Although this becomes tougher as we head into the summer traveling season, and demand for leisure and hospitality services remain high. Like I said, this was put out toward the end of June. So with school about to start back, we're probably on the tail end of travel season. Nonetheless, as interest rates remain high, lending standards remain tight, and the economy potentially cools, in our view, is that headline inflation will likely head towards 3% by year end, giving the Federal Reserve some room to step to the sidelines on rate hikes as well. So like I said, I think it was 2 weeks ago when that CPI data come out. So CPI is headline inflation, and I think it was like 3.1. And just keep in mind that the Federal Reserve's target for inflation is 2%.
Oh wow!
So yeah, we're making significant progress in terms of the Fed getting inflation back where they want it. So theme number 2 is the Federal Reserve will likely pause its interest rate hiking cycle in the second half of 2023. The Fed has continued to talk tough on battling inflation, as it likely should, given that headline inflation remains around 4%, and core inflation remains above 5%. Of course, this data is just about a month old. Well, about a month old. And the Federal Open Market Committee has indicated in its June projections that the peak Fed funds rate may get to 5.6%, implying that there are 2 more rate hikes from here. Okay, so the Federal Reserve meets today, and this afternoon they are expected to announce their decision on another interest rate hike, which I think if they don't raise rates today, everyone will be very, very surprised.
Right.
And so I think a rate hike today is given, and like I said, back in June, we would say that a rate hike in August was pretty much guaranteed too. But when we saw that inflation data come out a couple weeks ago, and it was actually better than expected. So that kind of, like I said, this month is still, or today is still pretty much a given. But when that data come out, I think it's led everyone to believe that, after today, after this month, the Fed is likely going to be highly data dependent, meaning that they're just going to be taking it month to month and looking at the numbers. Mm-hmm. And if interest rates need to go up, then they'll probably signal that they're leaving that door open. But we do feel like we're very, very likely, or we're very close to being finished with this rate hiking cycle, and the Fed is probably going to pause. Okay. Pretty soon. Okay.
And finish up that handout, and then we'll do our break, and then we'll have one more break. How much more do you have in that one right there?
Really, this one report is what I had planned on covering.
Okay, we'll just hold right there then. Let's take a pause then. I couldn't tell if you were about at the end of it or not, because I see that he always brings a stack of stuff. We never get through all of it, but he always comes prepared. But we're going to pause and talk about one of our sponsors, Cumberland Connect. I know that you got to get into the gig club before me, and it's so funny that people, pretty much everybody that sits down at this table, if they're a Cumberland Connect customer, they're in the gig club because it's so affordable. A lot of us have been I was spending $65 a month for a 3.5 upload speed. Now I'm spending $80, and I'm in the 500-600s all the time. It's amazing. It is a great service, great company to work with. We still haven't gotten our extender in because it's just us. We were actually going to put one in the window and see if we could point it toward the barns. And they're like, man, we could hardwire this to your barn, and you would have the same connectivity out there that you have in your house, and it won't cost you anymore. You just have to run the conduit. So that's what we're going to do. They advised us on that. Didn't even charge us to come out. They called it a site survey. Josh was just great. I mean, it's a great company to work with. Cannot say enough about it. The one stipulation is you have to be a Cumberland Electric customer to have Cumberland Connect. It's part of the utilities now, and that's how it should be because we have to have it, just like we used to have our phone lines. But no more. Now you need connectivity to the internet, and for that reason, they do have financial help for those who need some help financially. Maybe you can't afford $80 for a gig. Well, you qualify. The Affordable Connectivity Program helps qualifying households with monthly credit to help pay for internet services. And if you're eligible, you could receive a credit of up to $30 per month toward broadband services. It's that easy, and they have packages that start at $30 per month. To find out if they're in your neighborhood, like Aaron and them, they didn't know. They were already there, and you guys called, and they had you hooked up. So it was pretty quick. So you may be one of those that's already in the neighborhood. So give them a call at 1-800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362, or go to cumberlandconnect.org. Cumberlandconnect.org. Put in your zip code, and it'll tell you if they're there. If you live out around Senator Kerry Roberts, I'm sorry, you're last on the list. He's going to be one of the last ones to get Cumberland Connect because he's close into town, and so they're not considered underserved. And so, but you're going to get it before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure. But be sure and let them know that U-Turn sent you, and thank them for sponsoring One Street Over. Now, go. Aaron Slate's here. Hey, tell them how to find you. Let's just pause real quick. Tell them where to find you. Give them your phone numbers and all that, and then continue on with your report.
So my office is in Greenbrier. Again, my name's Aaron Slate. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. My office is in Greenbrier in the Franklin Farm Center. If you're not familiar with the Franklin Farm Center, that's the big strip mall. If you're headed towards Goullettsville, it's up on the hill on the right after you pass Greenbrier Middle School. But my office number is 615-863-2142. Again, that's 615-863-2142.
Very good. And Aaron Slate's going to continue on. And I hated to pause you right in the middle of that, but just kind of catch everybody back up in what you're doing.
We were just talking about the Federal Reserve. We feel more than likely they're very close to being finished with their rate hiking cycle. So if the Fed does move the sidelines in the second half of 2023, markets should welcome this reprieve from the rate hiking cycle and may view it as one step closer to the start of rate cuts as well. In our view, rate cuts are unlikely this year, barring any shocks that would push the economy into more of a severe recession. However, the Fed itself has indicated that rate cuts are likely in 2024, with its projections pointing to the Fed funds rate moving lower by a full 1% next year. In our view, inflation continues to moderate. The Fed may start to signal rate cuts by year end or early next year, particularly as interest rates remain in very restrictive territory currently. Okay, so in simple terms, what all this means, we've talked about recession. Historically, when inflation's running high or when the Fed needs to restrict the economy, the Fed will start raising interest rates. And the Fed is notorious for raising until something breaks.
Right.
Usually that's a recession.
Yeah.
So historically, when the Fed recognizes we're in a recession, they start lowering interest rates. It creates liquidity, eases the economy, and the cycle starts all over again. So if we feel like a recession is likely sometime at the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024, that's why we feel like those rate hikes would likely come, or the Fed would signal rate cuts, excuse me, are coming at the beginning of 2024. So that's the thinking behind that. So theme number 3, opportunities are forming in both the equities and bond markets. So stock market and bond market. The third theme for the back half of 2023 is the opportunities that are forming in both the equity and bond markets for the next 1 to 2 years. Markets may not be able to ignore a mild recession or an economic downturn, but we do think we think the volatility ahead could be used as an opportunity to position for a more suitable recovery. In our view, the gradual decline in inflation and shift in central bank policy suggests that a foundation for a new bull market may have already formed. So, like I said earlier, markets are trending upward for this year. So as of the close of last week on Friday, the S&P 500 was up 18.1% for the year. The Dow Jones was up 6.3% for the year, and the NASDAQ was up 34.1% for the year. So like I said, we haven't fully recovered everything that we lost, but we've made some pretty significant progress. And so what I've been reminding all of our clients of is like I said, markets probably aren't going to ignore this recession or downturn or whatever it is. And so, as we get closer to that, yes, we're probably going to go through a little bit more volatility, some choppy waters. But so the low of this down market was last October. Things were down around 27%. So even though we think that, there will be some volatility associated with this recession, we don't necessarily think that we have to go back to the lows that we saw in October. So it's like, in simple terms, I've been telling our clients, volatility that's trending upward, we'll take it. It may not feel good, but as long as things are trending in the right direction, we'll certainly take that. And so one thing I wanted to talk about is bonds. So in bonds, we're seeing a compelling opportunity forming to complement some positioning in short duration bonds and cash-like instruments with longer duration bonds, particularly in the investment grade space. Keep in mind that the treasury yields typically, the peak in treasury yields typically occurs 1 to 2 months prior to the peak in the federal funds rate, which could imply peak yields are likely in the weeks ahead. This would present an opportunity for longer duration assets, so longer maturity bonds, as investors could capture better yields or better interest rates, but also have the potential for price appreciation as the Fed pauses and ultimately starts to lower interest rates. So I've been doing this for just over 5 years, and I've been telling all my clients here recently, this is really the first time that I've been excited about bonds.
Really?
So bonds are tied to interest rates, and interest rates have been so low for so long. Individual bonds just really haven't been that attractive.
Right.
But we're at this point where rates are higher than they've been in a long time. I'm not going to say they're high because, people who are my parents' age will say, "Son, you don't know anything about high interest rates."
Yeah, exactly.
So, they're
Jimmy Carter.
They're higher.
Jimmy Carter era.
They're higher than they've been for a long time. And so, like, I know right now we mentioned, short term cash equivalent. So CDs, a lot of people are really finding CDs attractive right now, and they are. But what we know is CD rates are not going to be this high forever.
Right.
They're going to start going down, sooner than later. But you can find high quality investment grade bonds, so lower risk bonds out there with longer maturities with really attractive interest rates. And so how bonds work is when interest rates go up, the price of that bond will go down. So like if you're in a rising interest rate environment and you were to have to sell that bond, you might lose a little bit of money on it. However, when interest rates go down, the price of your bond will go up. So we know historically interest rates are lower a whole lot more often than they're higher. Mm-hmm. So with interest rates being, higher than they've been in a long time, those rates are just a lot more attractive. So now is a really good time, especially like if you're a retired individual and you're looking to lock in some income. Now is a good time to really consider, rotating into some of those longer term bonds and something, sometimes people don't like the idea of tying their money up for a long period of time. But what I remind people of is bonds can be traded and sold just like an individual stock. And like we said, if interest rates are about to go down and the price of your bond were to go up, if you were to have to sell that bond and get out of it, there's a really good chance that you could make some money. So you would get all that interest up to that point. Plus, you might make a little bit of a money on the appreciation when you sell it. So,
awesome.
So, like I said, there's just
this is why I need to come in and sit at the office with you and talk to you because I don't understand
it's just
this.
Like I said, and I do this every day. So some of you might think this I sound a little bit nerdy, but like I said, this to me this is exciting stuff. Because I haven't been excited about bonds since I've been doing this.
Very good, and we're completely out of time, and I still have to talk about your neighbors up there at Veterans Motorplex. This is the old Highland Rim Speedway, guys. It's up in Greenbrier, 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. There's racing happening through October. You do not want to miss out on all the racing excitement. Through October, you can go to the races every Saturday. Gates open at 4. Racing starts at 6 and goes to about 9 o'clock. If you're taking your boys to the races, you need to take your boys to the races. This is a free paper right here. This paper, if you can find one of these that came out at the end of the school year, the back page is a $40 value. You can take up to 6 kids and 2 adults to the races for free. So maybe you're not sure the races are for you. Well, this is a good way to check it out. You can still find some of these around town. They publish this every quarter, so until they publish a new one, these will stay out in some of the stands around. So hit some of the sponsors like Holman Jewelers. You can go by the central office up at the schools. They've had them. You can talk to them over at the sheriff's office, post office. Sometimes they have some of these lying around, and that's a $40 value. Again, take your whole family, up to 6 kids, 2 adults, for free to the races, and you will find local favorites out there racing, having fun. Follow them on social media at Highland Rim Speedway because that is where you're going to find out if there's any racing delays, anything like that at Veterans Motorplex. Jerry's done a fabulous job with Veterans Motorplex, and he wants to invite you all to come out to the races, and when you do, please let them know U-Turn sent you. And again, that's every Saturday night at Highland Rim Speedway, the old Highland Rim Speedway, Veterans Motorplex, happening in wonderful Greenbrier. Go out this weekend. Gates open at 4. Racing starts at 6. It's time for the Go Show. Lee Marie is on her way. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us for One Street Over. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless.